Well, anyway.
Welcome,
Denise will
everybody.
appreciate this. My screen is blurry because my cat decided to bite the top of my laptop.
Oh my gosh.
I'm glad no one bit him.
He's a spicy boy.
Those are the best kind.
What is this? Okay. Okay, well, we're gonna take a couple of minutes, let everybody come into the Zoom meeting. I haven't Zoomed in forever. I have not Zoomed in forever. So it's like it's like
Rusty?
a bike again. So I'm trying to have
Rename.
the meeting recorded. So for folks that are joining in, and if they're like can't make it through the whole meeting, we will be sending it out in a newsletter, so don't worry about that. If you have any questions, we're going to ask everybody to mute. If you have any questions, you can pop it in the chat, and when we get to the questions, we'll address them.
They can hear us.
I'm trying to think what else. Am I missing anything else? Oh, I know that one of the winners is in here from the I'm in, posting the image of I'm in. Karen's in here.
Yes, she is. Yeah. Give a wave, Karen.
Hi, everyone.
I know. Where is?
Hi. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so
watch things. They're really amazing.
Yes. I'm trying to think. Any other housekeeping items? Oh, I'll do a quick intro. I'm Amy from Sewtopia. I don't know what else I could say about myself. Quilting for 15 years. On Sewtopia. Locally.
Shop in Utah.
Shop in Utah. Husband, 2 kids, 1 neurotic dog. I just posted my wagon wheel poll on our Instagram, and I'm very much excited to start. So.
And Amy does some amazing retreats that sell out in seconds. So you might want to check those out. She always gets really great teachers. And
I know Denyse was like, Denyse, where you are our second. Yeah, like our second event. We taught in Atlanta. We beep off around the countries, but Denyse and Elizabeth were in Atlanta. I don't even remember what year that was.
I don't either.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Wendy from Dubbo in Australia, as if you can't tell by the way that I talk. Well, I too have a neurotic dog. I've got a rescue pug called Joe, who's got issues. And he's tried to break in this morning twice already. And another pug called Thelma. I also have a shop. I run an online shop called The Next Stitch, and I've been quilting forever. Seriously, like I was a child. I was in my early 20s when I started quilting. And looking at this grey hair, you can tell that was a while ago. And it just never gets old. I can't draw, but I like playing with all the different colour and value and fabric combinations and visual texture and just the geometry and how patterns can look so different, like the same quilt design, by changing up the placement of the colours and the value, it just looks like a whole new thing, and that never gets old for me. Oh, and I turned Denyse Schmidt into a template monster, because one day I just randomly, this little shop owner from Australia with like 1,000 followers on Instagram just sent her an email and went, "Hi, how would it be if we did some templates for Freewheeling Single Girl?" And she went, "Yeah, sure." And then many sewalongs later, many templates later, and here we all are.
Here we all are. I was using my wagon wheel templates today, and I'm like, I'm such a non-gadget person. You know, I'm very like old school or just shoot from the hip. And I was thinking that today, it was like, I never would have gone down the acrylic template rabbit hole, Wendy, if it weren't for you. Thank you. But it's so much easier to cut against, you're not going
Yeah.
through the whole nonsense of tracing, and you always add a little bit on when you do that. And with the templates, you can just cut around them. It's so much more accurate, and you can see through them because I was doing a lot of fussy cutting today. So
Ooh.
anyway, I'm Denyse, and yeah, it's my pattern. I'm the reason you're all here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sewing along. I can't wait to see what everybody does. I've already seen some really fun things out there, which is very exciting. And I thought of something when you said housekeeping, Amy, and I've already forgotten it, but maybe it'll come up. I can't remember what it was now, but it'll come up. So I have a little presentation. Should we just get into it and then we have more time for
For sure. So I'm gonna unspotlight me and Wendy,
okay, and I'm
And
gonna
then-
share my screen.
and then hold on 2 seconds.
It says you've disabled screen sharing.
Oh, I've disabled screen sharing. Okay, hold on 2 seconds. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Okay, and make host. Again, haven't zoomed in such a long time.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Whoop. There it is. Everybody can see. Week 1. All right. So presumably, oh, I know what it was, the housekeeping thing. I did hear from somebody today that they weren't getting the emails, and then I went into the thing and there were a few people who had bounced. So I'm presuming everybody who's here has been getting the emails. But if you know somebody who's doing it and they haven't seen the emails, it's because they might have entered. I did look up, there were only like 12 that had bounced, and I looked them up in my database. Some people weren't in there, so I couldn't fix it. But if you happen to hear anybody just say, oh, maybe you did a little typo when you joined and your email bounced. So that was that. Okay.
Okay.
So, oops. The wagon wheel quilt, I've got all this stuff on my screen. I got to make it go away. So this book, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Abstract Design in American Quilts, biography of an exhibition. It was the exhibition of quilts collected by this guy, Jonathan Holstein, and his partner at the time, Gail van der Hoot. And they were in the 70s contemporary art curators, and they started collecting quilts that they saw at flea markets and yard sales because they looked like the contemporary painters that they were representing. And they thought that was really amazing, and they were buying these quilts for $5 or $1 or whatever. It's not there. Oops. And so that's where I first saw this quilt, and that exhibition catalog is kind of what got me interested in quilts in the first place, because they were collecting quilts from the point of view of being artists and the relationship between these quilts and contemporary painters of the time. They weren't concerned about quilts, where all the corners were matching and the seams were aligning. They were looking at them as compositions and things that, just sort of were more in my wheelhouse, if you will, because they're a little bit weird and, the colors are strange. And I'm going to read you what is in the book that they wrote about this one. It's called Circles with Crosses, Colorado, around 1890. This is a unique pattern. Novelty alone, however, would not have taken it to the lobby as the banner of the exhibition, which I didn't remember that it had that position. Why this quilt? To symbolize the theme and direction of the show. The boldness of the design and the strangeness of the concept make it very eye-catching. So those were factors. Equally important was its striking resemblance to a modern painting. I would guess many more people assumed it was a painting or similar work by a contemporary artist than a quilt. The visual concept is in many ways very bizarre for a bed cover. I would disagree with that. My sister-in-law discovered this quilt in an antique shop on Broadway in Denver, the same row of shops where they found another quilt in the book. I always wondered if they came from the same house where each bed displayed a peculiar and wonderful design. Though we could not discover a recorded name for this pattern, we made up circles and crosses. It could easily have been bullseye, target, or X marks the spot. Anyway, there's the origins for me. You can see that, mine, I simplified a lot of aspects of it, and it was in my second book, Denyse Schmidt Quilts, Modern Quilts Traditional, Denyse Schmidt, Modern Quilts Traditional Inspiration, which paid homage to all those quilts that inspired me. This was this is the one I'd made with Bonnie fabrics, and I kind of was just channeling the first one that I had made with some of my licensed fabrics. And then this was one that I made after seeing that B. Marie Davis one that I talked about in the newsletter, and it's nowhere near as complicated as hers color-wise, but it was as good as I could. I just love how saturated it is, and this one's on my bed, and you can see how I pulled fabrics for it on the right. And then this was more directly kind of trying to channel the wildness of B. Marie Davis, although I don't think it's very good, but it features, it's a drawing, number one, so it never looks quite as good. And it features my fabric, Pretty Things, that will be out in February from Wyndham Fabrics. This is the one I'm making for the sew-along that I was cutting today. And I did do some drawings to just talk about value a little. And you can figure out how to do a quilt any way you want, but it's helpful sometimes if you feel like you like these fabrics, but you're not quite sure what. You're not quite sure how to put them together, or if it's doing what you want to do. So the one on the left has all the fabrics are the same in the one on the right, except for the wheel color, which is darker. So you can see how much different it looks just with the value of the wheels being darker. It still has the same relationship. It's darker than the axles as the one on the left is, but it just has a very different feel because the circle shape really dominates the structure, and because the grid is so much lighter, it fades away. And then these are ones where the background is darker and the grid is lighter, and they're just kind of simple examples of showing what happens when you start to play with value structure. And now the one on the right looks a little weird, but I just took this colored block that I had made and changed it to grayscale. So you can see the green and the pink are actually similar in value. That's the strange thing about value. It's not just value you have to think about, because obviously the hue is different, so it makes them very contrasty. They're actually opposite on the color wheel, so they're complementary and vibrate a little bit next to each other because of that. So it's interesting what you can do even with the same value if the color is very different and contrasty. And those are all, there's no like right formula or one way to go about choosing things or thinking about them. It's more a helpful tool, I think, when you're trying to say, is this doing what I want it to do? And if it's not, then you have some tools to, you know, try to figure it out. This is a great one by Wendy that, as I mentioned in the newsletter, you know, all the wheels, it's more scrappy because there's a bunch of different fabrics and, you know, a range of value within those pinks, but they're all the same hue. So there's a cohesiveness to it, and all the axles and centers and the sashing are the same. So there's great consistency, as with this one, which I love. I love seeing quilts on beds. This one's very sweet. When Amy, I saw a thing that said the meeting was going to end. Is that true?
That is true. The meeting's going to end in 10 minutes.
Yeah. What are we going to do?
I mean, like that time went by so stinking fast that it's insane. So, we could have a meeting too, or if we want, really quick to ask if anybody has questions.
Why
I
don't,
can
yeah, if
answer.
anybody has any questions, put them in the chat, and then I'll
Yep.
just get through this. You've seen some of these before. This is B. Marie Davis. I know this got a lot of people excited. And I, you know, I'm such a simple, like straightforward graphic person. Like the background's all the same, the sashing is all the same, and you know, maybe there's some variation in the wheels. And this one on the left just knocked my socks off because it's still so cohesive.
She's
And
local to us. Like
Oh, really?
she comes, Brittany's like come in and like bought fabric here, and she's amazing. So
Yeah, and I feel like it's just natural. Like I don't think she's got
Yeah,
any,
it's
you know,
super scrappy. I love it.
yeah, no, she's very good, and it just comes naturally to her. And here's somebody who's doing something, you know, you've got this like, it's almost like one of those color tests. Can you see the X? So that's a very different approach. She also added some extra squares in the sashing in between. So and she rotated the wheels so that
they aren't X's. Okay. That's interesting.
Yep. And repeating that center fabric has an interesting effect, like making almost another kind of secondary pattern. And these wheels also are rotated to align with the grid.
Interesting.
And then this one was interesting to me because I've never seen anybody do that. And I bet there'll be a bunch in this sew along. And I did a black and white version of it too, so you could see, you know, how that red gray ends up being, you know, it's a little bit lighter than that other color and sort of sits in the middle. So it's just, there's no, this is how it's done, any kind of nonsense, but understanding how colors interact and blah, blah, blah. Wendy and I had talked about the grain, and this is primarily because there's grain lines on the templates and the pattern pieces. And that's kind of a holdover from my second book when the tech editor was like, you need grain line pattern lines. And I just kept them. But essentially, you know, you get your selvage edges, and the lengthwise grain runs the length of the fabric. The cross grain is basically the warp. You know, if you're a weaver, the lengthwise grain is the warp, and the crosswise grain is the weft that goes back and forth. The lengthwise grain, I think, is the strongest, but it doesn't really matter. When you're using those aligning your template pieces, obviously straight lines, you kind of want them to be more or less straight, unless you're fussy cutting. And then you just have to be careful with your cut pieces if they're really not on the grain or, you know, on the bias. We also, Wendy and I had talked about preparing your fabric to cut. And sometimes when it comes off the bolt, the edges, the selvage edges aren't aligned. And, you know, if you only try to align those selvage edges, you'll get that weird thing on the left where there's fullness in the fabric. So sometimes the cut edges don't align. The main thing is align your selvage edges, and then everything will be hunky-dory. Fussy cutting, it's a little bit tricky with the that outside piece. On the left, they're all going the same way. On the right, this fabric was reversible, so I could do what happens on the right. If you're working with a print fabric, you just be mindful if you want to have certain fussy cutting effects. And I would just cut one piece at a time and lay out as you cut, so you make sure you're cutting the effect that you want. And it of course uses more fabric. That's some fussy cutting I did on my panel. Don't forget to post with the wagon wheel hashtag when you post, so we see it. Blah bitty blah. Okay.
I know we have 5 minutes. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Next time we'll.
Get out of here. Escape.
I know, but hang on. We have some questions really quick.
How do I get out of this? Oh,
wait. Okay, I'm gonna reclaim as host. Hold on 2 seconds. Hold on 2 seconds. Again. Oh, well, maybe I can't reclaim as host.
what?
I don't know. Hold on. I feel like, okay, let's just keep that one wagon wheel hashtag up. Keep that slide up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, keep that one up. Okay, so Susan Brown, email. Let's see, I signed up twice and got a welcome email, but not the email with the link a friend shared with me.
What's your email me at info@DS Quilts.
Sandra, we're gonna keep it to an hour. She's like, we should buy 30 minutes. It's not enough. We could have another Zoom. I don't know. We'll talk about it afterwards. Okay. How is it important to wash the wheel fabric? I like the stiffness without washing. I think washing.
It's up to you. I mean, most fabrics are color fast, but you know,
Mhm.
you never know. Amy, can we buy another 30 minutes? How long does that
I
take?
don't know how to do that. That's the part that I can't. I know.
On the fly.
Well, starch fabric before cutting. That's a preference.
Yeah, I don't bother. I just, I don't bother washing, and unless I am really worried it's going to run, and I don't bother starching. I just iron that hard central crease that is from the fold on the bolt. I get rid of that so that I can make sure it's on the straight of grain. If you don't get it,
Record.
Hi, Noel. Hi, Leslie. It's a smaller group. Now I can see everybody who's here.
Okay.
All these
Well,
names.
while it's a smaller group too, I've decided to add some more prizes to the prize pool. I'm going to show it on my screen really quick. Hold on. I'll try to like share the spotlight a little bit. Okay. I will have to be like, and Denyse knows this line. So you can't like, this is from my stash. Okay. I would love to see if anybody knows this line and what year it came out in. If anybody
know?
Yeah.
Is this a contest?
This is well, if you win, like, you post on your for the, but this came out of my stash because I've been collecting Denyse fabric for a very long time. So I'm adding this bundle, okay? And I'll give you a hint. I don't even remember.
Yes, we do. Well, Amy has cooler glasses than me. She always does.
And then we have
and me.
Yeah, baby. That's one of my favorite. Yep.
I've been collecting Denyse fabric since.
I've already told you, Amy, that you are sending that to me.
I know.
Like that's
Both of them,
sorry.
very funny because it was like, hey, I was like, I have more fabric, and should I just put this in the prize pack? But both of them individually reached out to me and said, hey, just send it over here. And I was like, it's like, whatever. Okay, so really quick, hang on. It would be okay, this one, Denyse.
What?
New
You want to know
Bedford?
the name?
Yeah.
What?
Is it New Bedford?
New Bedford.
New Bedford.
That I don't know what year. It's all a blur. Sorry.
It's like wine. New Bedford was circa, let me see if it says, hold on. It was definitely not with Wyndham. And I don't know what year.
No, it was Free Spirit.
Oh, Free Spirit. Yes.
No.
I don't know what year. New Bedford. Okay, hang on.
It was in the
Salvo.
teen, 2015, 14, somewhere around there. It's all those all melded together.
Okay, and
As
this
far as
one, somebody said 2010?
that's what?
Sunny?
Easttown.
Yeah.
You know, that might be in my fabric archives.
Mhm.
That one. And maybe even I don't know if New Bedford is in there. I've been slowly trying to post all my old collections to my fabric archives for all of you fabric nerds. So it has the year, who made it, and pictures. So it's kind of a fun walk down memory lane.
Those are two gigantic bundles that are going to be in the prize pool. So anyways, okay. Any flea market fancy? I do have
don't.
flea market fancy. I have
Yeah.
flea market fancy. I have Katie Jump Rope, which is one of my favorites. Okay, my top 4 fabric lines that Denyse has designed is Katie Jump Rope, Hope Valley, Flea Market Fancy, and Chicopee. Those are my top 4 that I love. Okay, hold on.
Okay, we have a bona fide question from Val about what size quilt do we recommend for brand new quilters? And I would say a twin size, or I mean the pattern instructs for baby, which I think is 9 blocks. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And
9 or yeah, 9 or
No.
4.
oh no, it's only 4. So
Yeah.
there's no numbers listed for like a throw size would be 9 by 9. So if you don't want to do like a little baby size, Val, if you did 9 by 9, that might feel a little bit more manageable. But you will have to figure out some of the math, like how many sash pieces to cut and blah, blah, blah. But that's relatively easy to do with a calculator. But a twin size is just 3 more blocks than a throw. So not that much more of a stretch. And I think you're going to find, that the blocks go together so quickly that it doesn't, it's just one of those quilts that I think I find when I get to like, oh, I got to do the sashing. That's when it feels like it slows down a little. Instead of just sewing all the blocks together, I got this other level of detail in there. But any other, I'm happy to talk about fabrics, of course, but 9 by 9. Okay. Do you add a row to each side for a queen? Sorry, I have to look at the drawings, and in the back of depending on if you have the digital or the printed version, a queen has 1 more vertical row, so it has 16 blocks. But I cheated on the border pieces. It's got wider borders, top and maybe just on the top. to make up the length difference, because a queen is longer than a twin by a few inches. Yes, I can. Everybody see that? Crib, twin, queen, king. And a throw would be, you know, like
Yeah.
9.
9 blocks, yeah.
What's nice about the throw is that the 3x3 block, there's nice geometry for that in terms of playing with placement. If you're having different backgrounds, you can make that faux 9 patch look in the background if you want to do that. And that can help if you are struggling with, I love all these individual blocks. How do I make them go together in the quilt and look good, which can be tricky on the 3x4 block layout. But bigger is always better.
What's that?
Bigger is always better.
Yeah, there's something, and I guess, you know, sometimes I say, why didn't I do small things? Why did I land on quilts that are so giant and they take a long time to make? But I do love the scale of it, and I like having, you know, one of the things that I love about patchwork and patterns is the idea of theme and variation. So if you want to make subtle, like I love the cohesiveness of the theme where every block is the same, but the variation of, oh, I ran out of this fabric, here's this other one, it kind of looks like the other one. So our eyes and our minds love those little substitutions or big ones. But you know, that balance of the theme with variation, I just find endlessly fascinating.
Awesome.
It
Okay.
would be a 9x9.
Question, where we all where Zoom just kicked us all out. The last question was, do you want to use starch? Do you use starch?
I don't use, well, generally I don't, but I spray with water. So I'll get any creases or fold lines out. I generally don't pre-wash, but if I don't pre-wash, I always make it a practice to the first time I wash that quilt to use color catchers. And unless you're using vintage, you know, there are some vintage fabrics that are not as color fast as our modern stuff. So if you're using vintage fabrics, I would definitely pre-wash that. And then I like Soak has flatter spray, which I sell on my website now.
Oh.
Yes, and I really like that as a fabric smoother. It doesn't have starch in it. You know, it uses other things to make that
I
smoothing.
use starch. I think it's everybody has a preference, right? Like if you're using something and then you're like, it's not helping me, then you know really quick what you're not, you know what I mean? So you know really quick if the starch is helping you with the curves or if it's not, right? So I use Magic, but there's also I don't use the aerosol can that you could get at, like, I think you get at Joann's or Walmart, if you guys know what I'm talking about. I can't, with the gold top. Usually when I say the gold top, they know, but I use Magic, and I love that spray. So I think it's all preference. I feel like I want to say there's no wrong way of quilting, and we're not going to be like, I don't know, we're not going to be.
But a good water bottle spray, I think, is, you know, like you give it a good misting, press it, it'll be nice and smooth and pretty good to go. Somebody, so Val, some of you I know are using the pattern from that book of mine, Modern Quilts Traditional Inspiration, which only instructed for one size. So all those quilts are just one size. Val, if you email me, I can at least send you that size chart if that is helpful. So info@DS Quilts. Not in the studio tomorrow, but I'll do it Monday.
It's good. Okay. Go by all or nothing.
all or nothing. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any
Any
other questions? Yeah.
How was our time?
Well,
so
now
sorry.
okay, so next time I know we're gonna schedule a 2-hour meeting. We will, what else? 2-hour meeting. And yeah, I think that's it. I'll make sure to crop both videos together. So when you send it out in a newsletter, so it'll be all together.
Yeah.
We won't look like we kicked everybody out all at once, you know what I mean? That was so abrupt.
Someone is asking at the bottom if you can show the samples. I think she's asking because you know you rocketed through your slideshow because we were running out of time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe just highlight some of the
Those
quilts.
are in, a lot of those are in the first
Newsletter.
newsletter.
Yep.
But let me see. If I,
Caitlin is.
the problem when I go
gonna
in there,
hear.
when I go into PowerPoint is I can't see anything.
Oh,
else.
and then I also have to
So,
make her the host.
messed up
Hold on 2 seconds.
on this. They're still trying to get it together.
Oh, we are still trying to get it together.
Yeah.
Oh, we are still trying to get it together. Okay, so hold on. I will make Denyse host again. You ready?
Yep.
Hold on, hold on. I can remember how to do that. Nope. Cancel. Hold on. Sorry. Still trying to get it together. I have too many screens. Denyse, there you are. Sorry. Denyse, make
Should I
host.
use color wheel?
Yes, there you go. You are host.
Yes, you can use, you know what book I recommend for color theory? I forgot to bring it home, but there's a new book. I'll share it in our next newsletter. And it's a Joseph Albers book. It's a brand new book from them. It's not huge like his usual the big tome, but it's kind of a condensed version of his teachings on color. And I don't think anybody needs to know all the color theory. The color wheel is helpful to understand warm, cool, complementary, analogous, and all of that stuff. But I think what's more interesting are some of the things that Joseph Albers talks about, which is contrast and how it's the interaction of color. Thank you. Somebody just posted it. Terry Darling, thank you. A Practical Guide to Joseph Albers' Color Experiments. We used that book when I was teaching Terry and some other people out in Wisconsin. And it's a easy way into really looking at the interaction of color. Because it's really, you can look at orange just by itself, and then you can look at it next to green. It's a completely different animal. And when we're making quilts, that's what we're doing. We're really making these relationships. So that to me is more important than, the kind of traditional color theory of blah, 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 blah. All right, I'm going to do my share screen. I smell, there's a skunk out here.
Oh no.
It's so
I keep
stinky.
thinking that the cat on the back behind you is an actual cat.
Nope.
It's kind of funny. Okay, hold on 2 seconds.
So here's the book. I don't know. How much time do we have?
I would say 5 minutes.
Okay. There's the original. So that's my
I know.
first wagon wheel that I did for the book, my book of Modern Quilts, Traditional Inspiration. And, I used one fabric. Well, no, there's a few very close in color, but like solids and a very fine print for the wheels. The axles are all the same fabric. The centers are all the same fabric. This one, the wheels are all the same hue, but it's using fat quarters of a collection. So there's variation in those fabrics with the same fabric for sashing, which is pretty muted. So the wheels kind of more stand out. The axles are very strong because they're highly contrasting with the wheel colors, and also a really dark value. But it all hangs together because the colors are, those hues are all analogous. This one, same thing, all the wheels, there's variation in the color, but they're all dark values, same kind of cool hues. The backgrounds are all variations on pink, and then this contrasting. But if you looked at this in black and white, I think the blue sashing would probably be about the same value as the pinks. This one's like really pushing my buttons. This was a stretch for me, but I was trying so hard because I was really inspired by Brittany's pink one. This is the one that I'm doing now, which, mixed in some prints into the backgrounds, just again, stretching myself a little bit. And then I talked about value. Like the one on the right is the only thing I changed was the wheel value. And you can see how, the visual effect feels pretty different. It's a little bit more, everything's on the same level on the left-hand side, whereas the wheels really pop on the right-hand side. And here I really pumped up the value on the grid, on the sashing. Blah, 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 blah. And here I was mostly, thinking about, darker value for the backgrounds. And then, this quilt on the right, color, two colors can be the same value and different hues. So you can get contrast in other ways than through value. It's pretty interesting. This is Wendy's one that, again, like sashing all the same. Her, forgot what they're calling the squares in the sashing, the little, what are they called? Cornerstones. They're all the same, but there's variety in the wheel fabrics, but they're all variations on the pink. This one is pretty consistent throughout. Very strong, like value relationship between the wheel. All the colors are fairly dark, contrasting with the ground. This is Wendy's second, third. I love how the plaid that she used, which is from my Darling collection, for the sashing, just like it makes it like a whisper, and it's a very cool effect, very soft, but it's still there. I love how that really makes the wheels pop out. This
This is the one she wanted to see again, the green
Okay.
version. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of variety. There's some pink-ish. It's hard to tell on the left because the color is, I don't know how true it is to, like on the right, it looks like the background. On the left, the background looks more like it has more color in it, but consistency in the sashing, lots of more variation than we've seen yet, like in the wheel fabrics, but it still feels super cohesive. All the axle centers are the same. Same thing here, more variation in the wheels, but the sashing, the axles, there's consistency. This is Brittany.
Super scrappy.
Super scrappy, super successful. I don't know how to do it.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Okay.
And then, okay.
No, you can.
Was it-
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
And then, what I noticed as we went through these is some of the wheels have been set differently than the pattern. They're not on the diagonal, the X, it's aligned with the grid, this one also. So there's a variation that you can do whether by accident or on purpose. It's a perfect circle, so it doesn't matter how you orient it. Oh, we don't need to talk about that.
Okay. Okay, so one, there was a question about if we're gonna have another meeting. Maybe.
The question is, would anyone turn up after this?
I know. We might have another Zoom meeting.
Sure,
Don't
I
know.
think we should.
We could do it after, like maybe like wrap up. Wendy, somebody asked what their next goals are for the next week. So this week it's posting by I think the 15th. Post your fabric poll. And then next week, I don't know what the goals are.
Yeah. So next week we are sewing just the center circle bit, which is essentially like only sewn together like a 9 patch. It's really easy to sew that center wheel part. So that's what we're doing for next week. If you wanted to get a jump on next week's goal, you could start cutting your fabrics for the center wheel. I think Denyse mentioned it in the first email. I would hold off cutting your sashing fabric until you get your blocks together, and then it gives you an opportunity to audition some different options, because I found, particularly with that one where I used that plaid from Darling, that I changed my mind and went with a completely different look, which I preferred. And I wouldn't have known that until I got all those blocks up on the design wall. But for next week, we are starting to sew, but just those blocks. So if you wanted to get started and do some cutting, and there's always people that race ahead and will have a finished quilt in a week because it's quick.
The whole schedule is on my website under, resources, sew-alongs, and you'll see the different posts. There's the overall wagon wheel, there's the schedule, and it gives a brief overview of what each weekly goal is, if you want to get a handle on the whole sew-along.
And the prizes.
And the prizes, yeah. So there's a whole thing about the sponsors and prizes, but there's also a whole thing about the schedule. Any other last minute questions? Also, I'm guessing that yes, I do believe we figured that out. Your Instagram account has to be public, unfortunately. And Amy, I think you said you can go public and then go back to private.
There's no way we can see, if you're private, there's no way we can ever see that hashtag, like ever. You're going to hashtag it and you're a private account. We can't see it. So if we can't see it and we can't, and I think a lot of folks, when they see the hashtag, they use that for inspiration, just like, you know what I mean? So if we can't see it, then we can't cheer you on either. So.
Or you could just set up a separate Instagram account specifically just for sew-alongs and, stuff that you want to share about sewing. Yeah, have multiple. Keep all of your normal private life and stuff that you can communicate with your family. Just keep that completely separate.
Tracy asked, are there guidelines for cutting and sewing your circles on your website? The future newsletters that are going to be released will have a ton of tips and tricks. So definitely, and those come out every
Tuesday. Yeah, the next newsletter email will arrive in your inbox first thing Tuesday morning, and it's all about, it was Wendy's email, and it's all about cutting the piece for the wheel. So
yeah. And then follow us on Instagram, because I feel like we're just going to be cutting and sewing along with you guys. You know what I mean? So it's not and you can pop in questions to us there too. Because I could watch a cutting video like a gazillion times. Okay,
Are you,
anything
are you
else?
gonna make any videos for us, Amy, this time?
Yeah, I can make some videos.
Okay. Okay. I don't know where we're gonna put them, but
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll figure that out.
All right.
We're easy.
Thank you, everyone. And oh, thanks, Val.
Yeah, thanks, Val. I feel like
And yeah, if anybody has any other questions that you didn't get to or you didn't make it tonight and you're watching the video, you can email me info@dsquilts. I may not be able to answer right away, but I will get back to you. And then before you know it, the next email is going to be in your box. So
exactly.
carry on. Thank you so much. Sorry for the technical hoo-ha.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see
That's my
you
fault.
all. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys, everybody. Thanks. Bye.